Hello and welcome to Art Talk, the place where we agree to disagree. Our topic today is attraction. I have Veloso by the last name and Olivia by the first name, Olivia Veloso here. I'm very happy to introduce you to her. Hello, Olivia.
Hi, good morning, Renee. I like that. Agree to disagree.
Good. I meant to say something to my viewers still. Did you know, dear viewers, that attractive people find it more easy to get a promotion in their jobs? They generally make more money than the unattractive ones. Um, but our topic today is not attractiveness, it's actually attraction. And my guest today is a lady who is currently in Arizona, Olivia. And she is an author of books which deal with the law of attraction and whether this is a law and how law is to be understood is what we're going to discuss. So I'm looking forward discussing with her topics like catchwords like affirmations, mind over matter, positive thinking, because that's the catchwords you will find if you go onto the internet and you Google law of attraction. Welcome, Olivia. You're in Arizona. It's early morning.
It is. It's something like 8 o'clock, just past 8 o'clock in the morning.
So early bird.
Oh, yes. I get up very early. I'm writing my third book.
I know you are in your third book.
Yeah.
You have already published two books,
Hmm.
On the Wings of Manifestation and Wherever You Take Me.
That's
Um,
right.
I believe both book works have to do with the law of attraction.
Yes, it does. The first one is more like my guardian angel because that's where I started. That was like 21 years ago. I discovered that she was around. And from there, I got more curious. And then I moved on to the law of attraction, came in. And then I really explored that, how it works.
Right.
Hmm.
Guardian angels and law. In the with the word law, I have physical law, natural laws, the police in my mind. They don't
Hmm.
quite gel. We're going to explore that together. But
Okay.
before we do that, I want to say a few words to my viewers about you, Olivia.
Okay.
Olivia has been traveling, teaching for 26 years all over the world. She is born in the Philippines.
Hmm.
I was very happy. And by the way, this is a new development in our talks because this conversation was actually initiated by a viewer of our talks who said, You must speak to Olivia. And
Hmm.
when I realized that you're from the Philippines originally, my first son was conceived in the Philippines. So I have a special affinity to the
Oh,
Philippines. But you spent a lot of time in Spain. You speak Spanish.
yes, I
Uh,
do.
you've you've traveled to Australia. You're regularly in Asia and the Philippines to teach. And one sentence which stuck out in your biography, somebody said about you, Olivia has been called a pioneer, a facilitator, as and is known to touch lives.
Oh,
So welcome,
thank
Olivia.
you. Thank you. And thank you for having me here. I just love the idea of us discussing, um, the law of attraction further, because from that time, from when I started to where I am now, I'm in a completely different place. Hmm.
Exactly. When I this is what is one of my curious thoughts. When did you start to realize that there are certain dynamics which uh, have been described often and which have a rather catchy terminology, a law of attraction, or also the law of resonance, which
Yes,
it's
right.
often,
Yeah.
often called. When was the first time you started to realize, oh, there seems to be a
Something is
connection?
happening. Yeah. Well, something was happening. It was when I got my divorce from my first husband. And then I went on to live alone. I was very scared. And then that first night, I remember talking to my guardian angel. And then from there, it just all sort of happened naturally that every time I wanted something, things would just happen. Everything would come to me. Started manifesting so many things unexpectedly. I mean, not just the little things, big things like a car. I got an Audi for paid in cash, and an apartment, and so many things in between that. And so I got really curious and I started to explore in a way, or try to discover what the answers were. Why was I doing this? Why was it so easy for me? And then from there, I started, like they say, you ask for something, like I said, and you receive. And then the law of attraction came in. Um, that's when it became really popular. Everybody started talking about it. That was, I believe, it was in 2006 or 2005. And then so I moved on from the my guardian angel, and I started to explore, how does this work. I wanted to do it because I wanted to learn it well, because that's the sort of person I am. So I left my guardian angel to my side because I didn't want her to influence the law of attraction. And so I started to explore just the law of attraction. And then I started to figure out how it came. In those days, we didn't really have so many teachers as we do now, and the topic of the law of attraction has many ins and outs. And so I've learned how to simplify it, just to make it more simple for, my students and my readers.
As you were talking, I remember a presentation by a Buddhist monk, Sogyal Rinpoche, a Tibetan Buddhist monk.
Hmm.
And this was in a big auditorium, in a big hall. And he was in the front, and they made like a throne for him to be up there. And he spoke. And then there was question and answers. And one person quite far at the back, and sitting next to the wall, an American gentleman, asked the question, what is karma? And Sogyal Rinpoche obviously was somewhat upset. Well, he didn't like that question
Yeah,
because he hears it a million times, and
yeah.
it's no easy matter to explain in a sentence or two. So he got up from his throne. He left the stage. He came down to the audience, and he walked through the aisle all the way up to this man, bent over him, and said to him, "Karma is sitting in this chair right now. This
Wow,
is the summary of all your thoughts and all your deeds, current and present. And
exactly.
all you need to deal with is this which sits here in this chair." I found,
Exactly.
and as you spoke, I just remembered, I had this picture. Is karma and law of attraction one of the same thing in your book?
Well, for me, it is about just right here and right now, because this is all we really have. The past is the past. The future hasn't happened yet. So it is about what is happening right now. So right here and right now is all that matters. How we react to a situation, our attitude, and that is what you're attracting and what you're living. So this today is the product of our past thoughts and our actions. So you can say that what you're experiencing today, like he says, you are a product of your thoughts and your actions, of what you've done and experienced in your life. Yeah.
I tell you, when I did a little bit of research and preparation for our conversation today, I do have I have a bit of a problem
Okay.
with the terminology law of attraction, as
Hmm.
I already alluded to, and that's actually the reason why it's not in the title.
Yeah.
Um, because there's a number of reasons, but let me first address it very quickly. People pick up, in this context, pick up ideas like positive thinking
Hmm.
and affirmation, all too easily people say, well, if you think positively, positive things will happen to you. Is
Well,
that
I think the way I simplify it, because there's so many ins and outs when it comes to the law of attraction, and people tend to complicate it. And the way I go about it is that wherever you put your attention to, you get more of the same, you know. So basically, it has to do with our energy, is our vibrational frequency. So let's just imagine that we have an aura, that everybody understands what an aura is. So that aura expands and contracts. So when our energy level is high, that is when we are positive, we're grateful, we feel love when we're in love, our auras expand. So I would call it like our connection with the universe. It's like our Wi-Fi. So when our energy expands in such a way, then we are more connected with the universe. Then we receive that guidance. We fine tune our energy to the universe, so that we can actually listen that guidance to tell us, turn left, turn right, do this, do that, right? But what happens is, a lot of us have not disconnected, because if we're disconnected, we wouldn't be alive. But our Wi-Fi isn't fine tuned. We are depleted. Our energy is depleted because we're focusing our attention on something negative. You know, it could be an experience, a negative experience from the past, and we keep rehashing it and reliving it. And so your energy is low. So whether you want it or not that much, it's hard to allow all this good stuff, or what you're wanting, to come in, because you don't have the Wi-Fi, you don't have that connection that's actually guiding you in every moment, telling you this is what you should do, and then it'll come true. So yes, in a way, being positive, being grateful, um, satisfied with life, enjoying life, that expands our energy. So we are fine tuned with the universe. So we receive that information, the guidance that we need to receive. But then when you're negative and you're focused, you're a victim, and you're focused on the negative stuff, then your energy depletes, and then it's hard to listen to that guidance. I
well,
in a
this is
way, I find myself very blessed, because, like, you know, um, my parents were very positive. My mom, I don't think I ever heard her complain once. I think that's the product of that generation. They were there and they just accepted what there was, and they made the best of it. And so I don't remember hearing any negative, talk at home. So when all this started happening, even after my divorce, I learned to be grateful for the little things that I had, you know and so that's what brought about that, hey, this is happening, and this is happening. But I believe it was my good attitude that helped me along the way. So having that, uh, a good upbringing, helps a lot you know
which is a privilege, and not everyone has had that. And
that's right.
I, similarly like you, I had a similar privilege to a great extent, and also my character
Mhm.
tends to sometimes almost a little bit obsessively try and focus on the positive side of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But I find that with positive thinking, as I hear people sometimes talk about it, it's sometimes as destructive and as counterproductive as the negative thinking. So if people just go about and say, um, and a positive sounding affirmation such as, I'm a lovable man or a lovable woman, uh, I deserve good things in life. I find that very often these people, what they're saying is, I am lovable if the right person comes to my into my life. I deserve the fruit of life if I'm rich. It's very often very conditional. And then I find this positive sounding sentence like I'm a lovable man is actually poisoned with an expectation which is deeply rooted in, like you earlier mentioned, in things which have happened maybe in the family, maybe the Swiss Army made It's a Beautiful Day Outside. They were driving over the lake here in front of me, and they made some somersaults and things for the spectacle of people. Fair enough. But I was saying to my wife, oh, this sound, we have so many people from Afghanistan, from Iraq, who have come here. They are traumatized by war. To them, this must be hell to hear these airplanes coming. So where I'm driving at is, isn't it sometimes almost a little bit of a mockery if we are saying to people, I'm not suggesting you are, but if people are saying to their relatives, oh, just take it positively, look at the bright side of life, focus on the positive. That's sometimes taking a little bit of, you used the word victim earlier.
Yeah. Well, I believe that first of all, when it comes to affirmations, you have to feel it. It's not just repeating a sentence over and over again, because it's the feeling that actually affects your vibrational frequency. So it's not just about repeating something or saying something or doing something. It's about your frequency yet again. So you go back there. So when you say something and you don't feel it and you're just repeating it, then it doesn't affect your energy, your vibrational frequency. So you remain in the same place. But then when you're feeling it and you're actually connecting to yourself and that knowing of yourself, that yes, this is who I am, because we were all born with all these, traits, all these values, all these moral values. We were born with that, but then with life, things have changed and, things happen to us, experience happen. So that connection with the universe isn't as clear. So when you feel it and you feel it in your heart and you know that, yes, this is a part of me that I'm remembering, and then your connection expands, your energy expands in a way that then you're attracting more good stuff. So it's not just about repeating words. And that's where I think that a lot of the times when we were born with this, our natural moral values, I would call, that you have to be kind, you have to be generous, you have to learn how to share. All that is natural in us. We were born with that. But and as we go along, we always get reminders. Our parents teach us, when we go to school, our teachers teach us, when we have religion, whatever religion it is, like the Catholic faith, we have the 10 Commandments. And then we go out and we learn yoga, for example. That's just an example. Then, they always want to instill peace in you. And even Reiki, for example, they're the 5 Reiki principles. So there are always reminders, so it's not about unlearning. It's about remembering that, hey, this is a natural part of me.
I am with you. I'm glad that you're bringing it in a more holistic content. I want to show you a short video clip just now, and then we continue our conversation. Okay. Still, I'm not entirely happy yet with, and maybe we can get back to it, because fact is that people out there, particularly in these difficult times, are finding tremendous challenges, and to just sort of basically preach to them and say, just remember your core values and everything will be all right. I know that's not what you exactly said.
No, I understand what you mean.
I'm taking liberties here. Let's have a look at this. I'm curious what you think about this little video.
Our entire universe is governed by a strict set of fundamental laws. The law of gravity, the law of relativity, the law of cause and effect.
The laws are scientific, measurable, and verifiable. These laws have allowed us to put men on the moon with the precision timing of a fraction of a second.
These laws have allowed the human race to thrive in ways we never could have predicted generations ago.
These laws are so precise that we can map the human genome, fly across the world, cure diseases, and control satellites from many thousands of miles away.
There is one universal law, however, that can help you get anything you've ever wanted.
One powerful law that through practical application can change your life overnight.
It does not distinguish between good and bad.
Happy or sad, wealthy or poor.
This law is the law of attraction.
The best way to think about the law of attraction is that your mind is like a magnet.
It's very simple. What you focus on, you attract.
Do you want more wealth? Do you want more health, happiness and fulfillment? What do you want?
Together, in unity with the universal laws, you can have everything, and it all starts with you. What are you attracting?
What did
Wow.
you think about the video?
Well, I think that's when I started. It was more in the material things. Eventually, it took me further. I started to went to believe, but then from belief, I realized that that comes from the outside. That's handed down to us. You know, what the things that we read, so we believe it. We bought into it. But it was a step forward. You know, it was a change. And then from there, I moved on to trust. But even trust can change, you know, because even belief and trust, if somebody tells you something, you believe in something wholeheartedly, and then somebody comes and you trust someone wholeheartedly, and someone comes along and tells you something bad about that person, then you stop trusting. So even that, you know, you buy into. But right now, I'm in the place completely different. It's just a place of allowing. It's a place of knowing. And that's when I said to you before, the affirmation, you have to feel that it belongs to you, that that is you, that is your core values. That's what you were born to. And so I've come to a place of knowing. I say that. In fact, my third book is entitled The Place of Knowing. So you're going ahead of me. So I talk about this in my third book, where you go to a place where you just know and you trust the universe wholeheartedly. The universe plan is so much better than ours. Yeah.
Thank you. I had to laugh when I saw this video. And actually, I showed you only the first 65 seconds. It goes on for another minute or so. And I watched it 2 or 3 times. And this video shows 13 men. It shows 5 women in the whole of it. It's talking about control. It's talking about law. It's talking about measuring things. Of the 13 men, there was 1 man who was in a inverted comma negative spirit. Of the 5 women shown in total, 2 women were somewhat positive. 1 was in the relationship with a man, happy, and 1 was the woman working in a laboratory, and all the others were sad. So I recently had a talk, the most recent talk, with a gentleman, a man, and we spoke about this worldview 1, which he calls it, which is the materialistic, the scientific approach to things. And if I switch on the internet now and I Google law of attraction, 99% of what I'm getting is promising me happiness, better relationships, more money, more success in business. It's very much in this worldview 1. Whereas, if I understand you correctly, you're saying, and please correct me, this is okay for people to start getting to realize that there is more than than what meets the eye.
Yeah.
And if it is in relationship with that worldview one of the video, that's the way it is. We all go through a process,
Yeah.
but eventually that it will evolve into because this is also typical of this patriarchal video, putting the mind over everything. It wasn't even talking about the heart, leave alone the stomach. The holistic being
Mhm.
of us. But if I understand you correctly, please correct me. You're saying as this evolves, one will get to other levels. You said you have to feel yourself, emotional side. Could you expand this a little bit, please?
Well, like you said, it's the journey. That's the way I call it. And I think everyone has their own journey. Some take longer, some faster. Um, but it does start with the material things, I believe, because that's what, um, we have right here that's, you can touch. But there's the spiritual side of us that we have to take care of too. And so it's the blending of the physical and the spiritual, because we have to take care of both. It's not just about all physical and all spiritual. You can't be running around in a kaftan like I tell my students, I'm being all, you know, flighty just because, hey, I'm a spiritual person. You have to live life. That's why we came here. So of course we want the material things. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's a difference when it comes to, for example, when it comes to the material things, the needing and the wanting. The needing, there's um, a meaning of lack there. There is a lot of lack there when you need something, and that's where the control comes in. And then there's the wanting when it's natural, because the universe wants to give us the best in life. But so the wanting is not bad, just as long as it comes from within. So the material part is all right as a starter point. But then I would say it's the jumping off point where you move in to the next part of the journey. I went through it in stages. Like I said, I had to learn without my guardian angel by my side, because with her, I just trusted her. It's good to believe in someone or something. I think we all look for that. But then I put her to one side and I wanted to really learn the law of attraction. And I moved on, like I said, from uh, asking to believing and trusting. But then I said there, it was again a lot of control. But then when I let go and just allowed the universe to deliver, I stopped asking, and now everything just comes to me. Um, I had to work my way up because I had issues. I think most people do, that I had to clear out, I have to understand. And that's something else that I learned, is that from every situation and every person, people we meet or are in our lives, we learn by that. So instead of criticizing the person or the situation or trying to change the person, I've learned to learn from it, learn from that person or learn from the situation. And that's when everything evolved and everything started changing from then. And then I finally got to a place that I call my place of knowing, where, that connection with the universe is pure. I receive guidance, and, now it's amazing because I don't even have to ask. Things even come to me even before I need it, you know, and it's quite amazing. It's mind blowing, which is why I decided to write this book.
Okay. Can you mentioned having to go through personal issues.
Mhm.
Now, I don't want to probe your personal life. It's none of my business. I'm happy if you share something, but maybe you can exemplify what you said, this progression, this transformation, this evolution, this unfolding process, um, with some real life experience, your students or within your family or neighborhood or yourself. Can you exemplify it with a story?
You mean how I got from uh, asking to believing to there? Oh, well, I have a lot of stories.
We have
And
still
so,
about 2 minutes.
okay. Well, I think in the beginning, I used to just ask and it would come. But because, like I said, of my good attitude. But then when I found out that believing was also what you buy into, and I said, okay, that's not so good, because I have so many beliefs that I had to work on. And we all have beliefs that, we believe in. And then you realize that it's something that you just bought into. It's just something that's, it's man-made, And so, like right now, even just something so simple, like the other day, if you want to know from the level I am now, right now, is that like the other day, something very simple. I was giving Reiki treatment. So I had a whole day full of treatments. I started at 12, I was finishing at 5. And then the last one didn't show up. And I waited patiently and I said, it's okay. If she's meant to be here, she's meant to be here. If not, I'll go home. Thank goodness there's the attitude there. It's the last one. Okay. So I waited 15 minutes. She didn't come. And I walked out and this man came out from the room before, right beside where I treat. And he said, the person who was with him introduced me. And I said, you don't happen to want the Reiki treatment, do you? It's only $10 because today's a special that I'm giving. I usually charge more. He said, sure, I will. I said, okay, thank you, come in. And I explained to him. He didn't even know what it was, and it was right there. It just comes into you. And things like that occurred to me, I mean, more than ever before, because I believe that I'm open now because I'm saying, hey, universe, whatever you want from me, I'll take it, and I'll take responsibility for it too. It's not just like when somebody comes to me and has a difficult question or a big issue or a sickness, and I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know the answers. And I just tell myself, if this person came to me, it's for a reason. And I'll just listen. And I listen, and the answers come along, and I think I've learned to trust myself, my inner knowing. It's not just the universe, it's your inner knowing that when you're guided to this, yes, do that. I mean, just the other day, we gave a Reiki share day. So we had 5 tables, one table, one whole line of people canceled. And I told the owner of the healing house where I work out of, Sozo Healing House, and I told her, let's just put another table. We usually don't do that. I said, let's just put another spare table. You never know who's going to come. I don't know why, I said, but I'm feeling that we have to just leave an empty table open. We didn't have anyone in store. And the next thing you know, that table filled up. People came, showed up without even asking. Somebody brought her son without even saying. So we had the table available. So you trust that inner knowing, it's not just a thought that comes, it's a guidance.
Great. Thank you very much. We're getting towards the end. I like these last stories very much. And like a few things. Sometimes people say law of attraction, karma, and things like that, as if it was unavoidable, that it was pre-decided how our life goes. And you took up the word, no, we have a responsibility to get in touch with intuition, inner guidance, the universe, some will call it God, whatever. So, and then you used the word taking responsibility for one's own actions.
I think that's so important.
Very far cry from victimhood, so I think that was very wonderful. And you exemplified, particularly with the first story, I loved it, how courageously you took the opportunity. There is this huge and you're saying, hey, you want a treatment? And
that's what I tried to explain that in the book. It's like someone pushing you to say something or to do something, and you can't help but say it.
Well, you still had the courage to open your mouth and expose yourself. I applaud you for that. I thank you, Olivia, for our conversation. I'd like to come to an end. How do you feel?
Oh, wonderful. I love this. I mean, I would love to share so much more. I have so much more to share. And yes, thank you for this opportunity, Renee. I mean, it's a blessing. Thank you.
I thank you. I say goodbye to you in Arizona, and I wish you a good day. I'm soon going to bed. Namaste.
I'm
Bye-bye.
starting my day from over here. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Renee.
Bye. Thank you very much, viewers. I'll cut it short. Please watch again. Subscribe to our newsletter. See you soon.